Hello and welcome to One Too Many. We are the podcast where we pick the worst movies from great franchises, actors, and directors and discuss what went wrong. I'm Drew.
I'm Tyler.
Tyler, what's our movie tonight?
We're doing Daniel Craig's James Bond.
We're mainly doing Spectre. I think that's one we chose.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I should have been more so. Yes, we're doing Spectre, James Bond, Spectre, but we're also going to talk about the Daniel Craig James Bond series as a whole.
Right. Okay, so I just kind of want, before we get into the Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Spectre, I kind of want to just talk to you about do you have a history with the 007 franchise as a whole? Did you grow up watching these or did you just hop on?
I played GoldenEye as a kid. Does that count?
That's a good answer. But did you ever watch the Pierce Brosnan ones or the Sean Connerys or anything?
Just GoldenEye movie. It's just about the only one I have good experience with.
Yeah. So my history is a little deeper than that, not too much. I love the GoldenEye game too, but I grew up really liking the 007 movies. I don't know. You know when you're a kid and you just got kicks of certain movies. I thought James Bond was really cool. Anytime I dressed up, I was like, oh man, I look just like James Bond right now. But I grew up with the Pierce Brosnan ones, which it's kind of like when we were talking about the Phantom Menace. When you're a kid, you kind of like everything, so you really don't know how corny a lot of it is. And especially the last couple of Pierce Brosnan ones, those are some stinkers. So, but I don't know, I think I went back and watched Die Another Day a few years ago, and it is horrible. When they went and redid all these James Bond movies with Daniel Craig, they made such a good move to kind of ground these in some form of realism. So
hold back the ridiculous tech a little bit.
Yeah, that's one thing I really like about this series, because the Pierce Brosnan ones are just you got pins that are lasers that can cut through all this crap and all that other stuff.
Car submarine, I think.
Yeah, and there's one, it's you can turn your car invisible. So it was just the worst one with Die Another Day, because that's the one Pierce Brosnan ones I watched the most. At one point, somehow a laser hits a frozen lake, and he surfs on the wave with a parachute, and I think that's the point where the studio heads were okay, I think we need to redo these.
The jump the shark moment.
Yeah,
the Pierce Brosnan movie.
Yeah, so they redid it, and in 2006 we got Casino Royale. Daniel Craig was the first James Bond that he's under 6 feet tall. He's a short, stocky guy with blonde hair. I remember the first time I saw him, I was like, this guy doesn't look anything like Pierce Brosnan. The last couple of James Bonds, you look at them, they all kind of look the same. They all kind of have the same kind of I don't know, the same kind of look to them. I don't know how to describe it. He just kind of look like James Bond. This guy really doesn't. What do you think about that?
He is very different looking than other Bonds. Daniel Craig just kind of got that face where you can't really tell how old he is either, so that kind of helps a lot too.
Do you think it helps him or hurts him in the last two movies when they're calling him an old man? Do you think that's weird?
It helps him in the first two movies because he can appear younger than he actually is. But yeah, the weirdness of them calling him such an old, outdated man in the last movies are kind of off-putting, especially since he's portraying a younger agent in the first two movies.
It's really weird because I looked at his age, he's 49 right now, so I guess in Hollywood that's an old age. Okay, so let's go ahead. Before we get to Spectre, I want to talk about just the first three and how you kind of think they are, how they compare. The reason we're doing Spectre is I checked on Rotten Tomatoes because I wanted to do one of these because you got two that hit pretty good. With Casino Royale is awesome, Skyfall's really, really good. But Quantum of Solace and Spectre, they're just not great. So I went and checked it, and Quantum of Solace has 65%, Spectre has 64%. So that's why we're doing Spectre, even though I probably think Quantum of Solace is the worst. What would you say with that?
After viewing all four, Quantum is the worst.
We'll talk about that in a second. It's so bad. Okay, so Casino Royale, I kind of want to start with the beginning. What did you think of the chase when he's chasing the guy through the construction zone and they're doing parkour? What did you think about that?
All four of these movies' opening chase scene are probably some of the best scenes in the whole series.
They're awesome. I think Casino Royale is my favorite of these. I really like that chase. And I know they started making fun of it. Like, remember the Office episode when they were doing parkour in the parking lot?
Parkour.
That's so great. But yeah, I really like the way it kind of establishes right off, like, this is a different James Bond than we got used to with Pierce Brosnan. One, he's almost like the Terminator. I made a note of that. Like, he's very, very, like, focused on, he's going to get this target. Nothing's going to stand in his way. I like the way he's chasing him through the construction site. The dude's, like, so, like, lithe and quick, just, like, jumping through every obstacle. James Bond's just, like, busting through walls to go get him.
Steals a truck.
Yeah.
A crane to knock stuff down.
Yeah, and these guys, they just kill people. That's another thing I like about these movies. They just kill people. They don't even look back on it. So I don't know, I kind of like that and like the, just like the grittiness of it. And the other thing it establishes really quick, they're going to beat the crap out of Daniel Craig. Because with the Pierce Brosnan ones, I guess he was like the pretty boy. So they didn't want to like cut up his face or anything. They beat the snot out of him in this movie. What do you think about that with like they're kind of going for more like, did you ever watch the Jason Bourne movies? Have you watched any of those?
Yeah, it's good to see a hero get beat sometimes. You need to take a little beating to actually make the movie interesting.
Yeah, it shows that actually has like your hero is not like invulnerable. So I really like that. And I really like with the thing they took from the Bourne movies, I'm going to hit on Quantum of Solace for a second, where you kind of see the good parts of the Bourne and the bad parts of the Bourne movies sinking into this. Because the good parts of the Bourne movies are the action's really good, the punches, you can just kind of like feel them, like they hit so hard. The bad thing about the Bourne movies, especially when you get the Supremacy and I think the last one's Ultimatum.
Yeah.
So the thing about those two movies is the editing is really noticeable. Like, there's a lot of like really quick cuts to it, but there's an art to it with the Bourne movies, because you can, even though it's moving really quick, you can still kind of make out what's happening. Quantum of Solace, they don't know what they're doing. They're trying to mimic that editing style.
Quick cuts everywhere.
Could you tell what was going on any of the time?
A person in a suit was fighting another person in a suit. Something happened.
Do you remember the part in Quantum when he's at that play? Do you remember? There's like a big eye in the center of it. He's running away from the people after he calls them out. And there's a shot of him running through a kitchen or like a restaurant or something. You can't tell what's going on. There's like a flash of fire that lasts a second. And then he's in like two different rooms. So, what do you think about?
It reminds me of that, I think it's a CSI clip, where there's a chase scene going on, and I think it's 20 clips to show an actor jumping over a fence.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It reminds me of that little clip you can find on YouTube.
Yeah.
20 different cuts for a simple jump over a fence.
Yeah.
And it's like they just try to do something that can be done in a single shot for multiple shots, multiple cameras.
Yeah, and that's a lot of Quantum of Solace. And on top of that, we're going to work our way back to Casino because I just kind of want to like brag on it for a second. But Quantum is just, it's almost unwatchable because it's boring. On top of the villain really sucks compared to, I think Casino Royale, you had Mads Mikkelsen, he's Hannibal in the new series. He's a really good James Bond villain. He's just kind of like menacing, but he's also like kind of classy. So I like that mix. But compared to Le Chiffre, that's the Casino Royale villain. The villain they have in this one is just like some Weasley little guy. Did he make any impact on you at all?
He did not.
Do you even remember him?
I barely remember anything about Quantum, just because it was so uninteresting and so hard to follow any fight scene. That just very forgettable.
Yeah. So, do you want to close the book on Quantum?
Let's close the book on Quantum, but we need to go back to Casino for a little bit.
Yeah.
I think.
I want to ask you before we close the book. What do you think? I want to talk about the with James Bond. One of the big things is the song at the beginning and the music video. What do you think? Did you like the "Another Way to Die" by Jack White and Alicia Keys? That was the opening song to Quantum. Did you hate it? Because I hate that song.
I'm indifferent about it. It was just, you know how all Bond songs have certain feeling, sort of? I mean, it had that feeling, but it wasn't a very good song either, though. Even though it kind of got the tone of a Bond song.
Yeah.
It's just something lacking.
It's very weird because, like, You Know My Name by the late, great Chris Cornell. He did Casino Royale's opening song. I really like it because I really like the mix of that song and the music video because it's really creative because it's him. It's kind of like James Bond, like fighting people, chasing people, shooting people, but it's done through like all these poker cards. I really like that. It's just really creative. Compare this to Another Way to Die and their music video because it's just like sand, like pouring continuously and like a bullet going through it. And you see like the outline of James Bond in the sand. It feels like that kind of sums up Quantum of Solace because it's just like, what's the least amount of work we can put into this and still call it a James Bond movie?
And the sand could be like going through an hourglass, like, when's this going to end?
Yeah. It's horrible. Okay, that's the one thing I wanted to say about Quantum. But yeah, Casino Royale, what were the best parts about it? What were the worst parts about it?
They made card games interesting.
Yeah, it's really tense. And like, did you just like the way it was filmed, or just the intensity of it? Or
yeah, how they gave. Shoot, I'm blanking on a word here, but just suspense. I know we've said that a lot recently, but there's just some suspense with the card games. And that scene where he realized he was poisoned. Mm-hmm. Just a lot of small suspenseful scenes. Not overall, the movie wasn't very suspenseful.
Right.
But it had just certain small bits that were.
Yeah. I like the way they pace it because it's like in between every round they play like something happens. Like they get in the stairway fight with people that they're, I think, so the chief is like a warlord or something, right? And he's in debt. That's the reason he's at the poker tournament. But yeah, they do that and the people are after him. They try and like cut off his girlfriend's arm. And then they have like the stairway fight and stuff. I like that. And then he gets poisoned after the next round. It's like every single round there's something cool that's going on. So I really like the pace with that. What were you going to say?
I was going to ask, what did you think about the two flashback scenes at the very beginning?
The ones in black and white?
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I think it's very like neo-noirish. I guess that's the right word for it. What did you think of them?
They were good, but they didn't really feel the same tone as the rest of the movie, but not necessarily a bad thing. It just kind of makes you think it's going to be something different when you see those two scenes.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, I've never read any of the Ian Fleming novels. I was wondering if that was like a nod to them, like if that was in one of the books. Do you know anything about the books at all?
I don't.
Okay. But there's one more thing. Two more things. I want to talk about the airport scene, the chase scene when they're trying to, the bad guy's in the gas truck and he's trying to blow the plane up. What do you think about that? I really like that scene. Mark the note, it's kind of like the Indiana Jones chase scene when they're, I think it's in The Last Crusade when they're trying to like knock each other out of the truck and then they keep getting pulled in, they beat each other up a little bit more and they throw one out and then he climbs back on. I really like that. And the last thing I wanted to put was I really like Eva Green as the Bond girl in Casino Royale. I think she's just so pretty. On top of it, she's got like, her and Daniel Craig have like really good chemistry. And she's really charismatic, so I really like that. Do you remember her in your...
I think she might have been the best Bond girl of the whole four movies.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So, are you done with Casino Royale?
Yes.
Okay. So, we can move on to Skyfall. What do you think of the beginning of that and the Skyfall music video?
Skyfall had the best song, the best opening video, and I wouldn't say the best opening. But
It's a cool opening, though. Opening. That motorbike chase across the roof is really, really cool. And I really like Moneypenny, in that I like how they established that the reason she has an office job is because she shot Bond while they were in the field together.
I feel like all 4 movies gave Moneypenny nothing to do.
Yeah, well, she wasn't in the first 2.
Yeah, I know she wasn't in the first 2. I'm just saying, it seems like a character of her status, from what I know in the previous movies, that just so little for her and for all the supporting characters really had nothing to do in all these movies.
Well, so we'll get into that. That's a big part of it with Spectre, because you have all these supporting characters with their own like little B plot. But most of the time in all these James Bond movies, he works alone. Like this little group he has, like Q in the Pierce Brosnan movies. He's just an old guy that like gives him like little gadgets to play with, and like Moneypenny. I think in the old one she just like sat behind the desk and like James Bond flirted with her a little bit. And so like the rest of this little group that he's got running around with him, that was never like a big part of the old one. So I think just pound for pound, I think Spectre gave him the most to do of all the James Bonds. Once again, I don't know a whole lot about the James Bonds. I just know like the last, 10, 20 years of it.
It's like they casted the characters and wrote them into the story to give them something to do, but it's like never lived up to it, in my opinion.
Right. Okay, so where do you think the highlights of Skyfall are? Did you like the bad guy?
Love the bad guy. He had the most solid motivation out of any of these 4 movies.
Mm-hmm.
Carried through this plan. Of course, it had the lane get captured on purpose deal, which is probably the worst part of the movie. You could have done that a lot better in other ways, but
did he remind you of the Joker? And we're only like Skyfall came out in 2012. We're only like 4 years out from The Dark Knight when that movie came out. Did you see any Dark Knight bleeding into this as an inspiration?
They use a lot of the same tropes for sure. The being captured.
Dead parents,
just. But overall, Skyfall probably my favorite of these 4.
Yeah, it's a good looking movie. That's another note I have. Sam Mendes, he knows how to make a movie. He made American Beauty, that scene, and Road to Perdition. Both of those are really well directed too. So with Skyfall, why would you say it's your favorite? Just because it's the best looking or has the best villain in it?
I think both those are true. I mean, there's scenes in other movies that are shot better, but just the movie as a whole is shot the best. It was more of a smaller story.
Mm-hmm. It's a very like personal story. That's the thing I like about it. It kind of goes into like James Bond's past and stuff. I really like that. Okay, so we're doing Skyfall and Casino and Quantum. Do you want to go ahead and just jump into Spectre?
But one more thing about Skyfall.
Okay, yeah.
It's like he gets shot and then fails his test, but he's better anyway. It's like there's no real...
Yeah,
nothing really that held him back. So what was the point of any of that?
I don't know. I think it was just a cool scene. I think they needed to knock him out of commission. I think one big thing I wanted to bring up, especially with like Spectre and Skyfall a little bit, and I don't know, Quantum. It's all of them. All of these involve him going rogue. It's never like M gives him a mission and he's just like, okay, well this is gonna be the movie. It always involves him like he's being chased down by MI6 on top of he's having to chase down everybody else. What do you think about that? Do you think that adds like an intensity to the story or just like a little bit more of momentum to it?
It gets repetitive by this point, him going rogue. I don't know how often he gets rogue in the old movies, but
I don't either, but in all 4 of these, it's like every single one he's going rogue. I'm just like, oh my god, like do we have to keep seeing him like act out or whatever? Okay, so do you want to move into Spectre?
Let's go to Spectre.
Okay.
Not looking forward to this.
Yeah, this is a mess. Okay, so let's start with the beginning. What did you think of the beginning action scene to Sam Smith's song?
I loved how colorful it was.
Mm-hmm.
I loved how there were some long shots. And, it was a little convenient. He caught the conversation right as they were talking about their plans.
Right.
Terrorist plans. But overall the scene's great. The helicopter bit got a little bit ridiculous, but it's James Bond to go have ridiculous scenes.
Right. Yeah, I like it too. I'm with you. I really like that. It's like the first 3 to 4 minutes are just like one long uncut shot, and it looks really cool. I like the whole like Day of the Dead background too. And I'm kind of with you on the helicopter thing. It's a little over the top, but at the same time, it's so impressive. Like I know a lot of the extras are like CGI, especially when they're like up in the sky flying around. But I thought it was just really impressive. The whole like Day of the Dead setting, like just between the long shot and the action scenes, really cool. But just like all the people they got together to shoot that scene, I thought that was really impressive.
Let's say this helicopter scene went a lot better than the Twilight Zone movie's helicopter scene. Too soon.
Yeah. What did you think of Writings on the Wall by Sam Smith? A lot of people really don't like the song. What did you think of it?
Well, I watched this movie with my brother, and when the song came on, my brother expressed how much like he hated it.
Yeah.
Like, it was his first time watching Spectre, and I don't think he really paid that close attention to the radio when it came out, whatever. And he was telling me how much he hated it, how much better Skyfall was. But while Skyfall's a lot better song, I didn't really have any hateful feelings for the song. I didn't really dislike it.
Yeah.
It's not an amazing song, but yeah, that reaction was kind of strange to me, how much they thought it was so bad.
Yeah, I think it's like it's a fine song. Like some people like were saying it's like nails on a chalkboard to them, but for the most part, I liked it. I thought it was fine. It's just a weird video, like the octopus stuff they keep weaving in and out with it. It just kind of makes me a little uncomfortable, I guess. I don't know what the...
Yeah, it was like, it had nothing to do really with the plot of what the opening credit was, because it kind of felt like the octopus is like an all-reaching something, and nothing about the villains really seemed that all around him and all-reaching.
Well, I think they want you to think that. I think once we like break down a little bit, you're gonna like none of the story holds up. But yeah, just getting back to Writings on the Wall, I think it's okay. I like Sam Smith. I don't think it deserved an Oscar. Like it won an Oscar for this song. So I don't know. That's just okay. So anyway, so we got past the beginning. Where do you think the highlights of this movie are besides the beginning of it? Do you think there are any?
The scene with Mr. White was good.
Yeah, okay, so I know what you're talking about. That's when they were in that cabin, right?
Right.
You're a kite in a hurricane.
Right.
Yeah, I think...
It felt good to bring that character back.
Yeah, I think Spectre kind of has a problem of, and it's kind of like the movies on Rotten Tomatoes that like you see in like the mid-60s are kind of like this. They have enough scenes in them to like pull you back for a second before you realize you're still like stuck in a bad movie. And that's a really good scene just between him and Mr. White, because it kind of brings like what they're trying to do with this movie together for a second. And then right after that, you're just back to a crappy movie. So, I think if we're gonna...
Any good positives you want to mention?
Yeah, I have a few. We're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy on our bonus episode. Dave Bautista is in here. He's the big thug. I think he's great. I think he's like a really good like menacing presence. Like his
character barely said anything, but he was just such a good muscle bad guy. Bond always has this like bad guy that's just a muscle,
right?
And he did great as that.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I'm gonna bring up Batman a few times in this, but it's kind of like, when Bane comes into Dark Knight Rises, it's like finally Batman has like an equal of sorts with like a physical fight. You know what I mean? So with Bond, most of the time he can just plow through people. So it's cool to see him just like get thrown around, especially in the train scene when they're fighting. I really like every scene Dave Bautista's, especially his introduction when he like acts like the Mountain and just like crushes that guy's skull.
Dang, I was gonna read that up. Yeah, that's what I said with my brother while watching it. I did the Doran impersonation.
Man, that's such a good introduction of a character. And of course, it's like I said before, it's like you get these little bitty scenes that make you think this movie's good. And and then it just like goes back to being a bad movie. Yeah, okay. So anything else is just. I thought Christoph Waltz was okay as a villain. I was really excited for him to be in this because he's in the Quentin Tarantino movies. He's in Inglourious Basterds. He's in Django Unchained, and in both of those, he's like kind of like a hammier kind of character. Like he's real over the top. So I think that's kind of what I expected him to be in this movie. But other than that, he's okay. And the other good thing is